Welcome to Testimony Tuesdays for the Mission Church of Lexington. We all are sharing our faith testimonies, and this is where my story begins, in the Christian church in Sharpsburg, Kentucky. I'm standing on the steps of the Sharpsburg Christian Church. Many years ago, my family started coming to this church before I was ever born, so my faith story starts well before I was born. I'd like to ask my mother to come and join me, and we're going to talk a little about that. Yeah, sit here. He can come. Pop out. Hello. This is my mother, Carolyn Rogers.
Hello.
Many years ago, my mother's family started coming to this church with her mother, my grandmother, and
They moved up here in 1914.
They moved to Sharpsburg and started coming to this church.
I suppose.
And then my great-grandfather rather, would have been grandmother Calvert, who was a Doyle at that time, and it would have been her father and mother, and her father helped build and put the baptistry in this church.
He died in 1929, so it had to be before that. This church, I think it started here, but it was in another part of town. It moved out here about 1900.
And at some point in time, when after the first part of the church was built, they added on to the church by including that baptistry, which he was a part of installing. So from the day I was born, my family came to this church, and I came to this church for many years until we kind of started traveling and moving around a little. My mother and dad worked on the pipeline, but we never failed to attend church somewhere, depending on where we lived at the time. My mother always made sure that we were in church. So my roots were very deep. I've never known a time in my life that I didn't believe that I was a Christian. However, there's always a time in our lives that we have to make that personal decision for Jesus. And at one time when I was about 12 years old, I was baptized here. And as I got older and learned a little more, there came a time in my life, and my mother says that in her life as well, that we were both baptized again in the same church. I was a teenager, and she was a little older than that. But I remember another time in my life when I was in college, and I remember thinking, having grown up in this small town and been related to many of the people and gone to the same church for most of my life, of Jesus saving me, and what did he save me from? And I really couldn't understand that at the time. And I know that many years I thought about that. And then there was a day that I just remember how God spoke to my heart that what he saved me from was a life without Jesus and without knowing God. And it wasn't about anything that I did or anything that my family did and prepared the way for me, but that Jesus was the one that paid the price and prepared the way for us, that we could all know God and spend life here on earth and an eternity with God. And I'm thankful for the foundation that my family built, and I'm thankful for what Jesus did for us on the cross. Hi, we are here in the vestibule of the Sharpsburg Christian Church, and above us is a mock-up of the church from the centennial celebration. In 1893, the church was moved from one location to its current location, and in 1993, we celebrated the centennial of the church. And Mother was telling me that it was moved here?
It was located out in the country, and then they got the land here and built this church here in 1893.
On the other side of the vestibule, there is a picture, which has always been there as long as I've been in this church. And I just think in this time, in this week, and what's going on in our nation, it was just interesting to me to see that lovely picture of Jesus with all the children of the world. we're standing now on the baptistry inside of the Christian church that I spoke about earlier, that my great-grandfather helped put into the church. Mom, tell us a little about what's underneath of our feet.
We're standing on a lid that you get down here and raise it up and push it back against the wall and fill it with water, and that's the baptistry.
This is also the baptistry that we were both baptized in, and Mary was baptized in, and hello. This is, we are sitting on the front pew of our Sharpsburg Christian Church. Again, my mom's with me, and we have a Sunday school teacher, Mary Bruce Wilson. Now, I don't know if she was my Sunday school teacher then, but she helped many of the children during that time. We've been sharing stories today about all the people and the children and the people that participated in church here and that we've known all of our lives. And even to this day, they can count back generations have been in this church. Mom, we were talking about how many generations in central Kentucky and that our family have been here in this area?
5 or 6, 4 or 5 or 6.
In this church in Sharpsburg. And then we have talked back nine generations
okay.
in the area. Bath County and Central Kentucky. Mary Bruce, you have how many generations have you?
I have to count.
Same.
My husband went here all the time,
Same.
and I
He did.
grew up here too.
And their families have been here for years.
I guess the part of this that always meant so much to me are the families, and it wasn't just my family and it wasn't my mother, but it was all the mothers in town that took care of us when we were in church and when we weren't, and loved one another and cared for one another. And we've had many conversations today about how we shared the love of Jesus with one another, and how we all try to share that love with everybody else in our lives at this time. And what a great foundation God has built for each one of us. And I'm so thankful to have had that a part of my life.